Boa tarde a todos.
Good afternoon to all. I would like to begin by thanking all of you for joining us today in this panel that is so important to us. PISA for schools is without a doubt the student assessment, the most important student assessment in the world, because of course it looks at life skills, skills that are very different from school skills, so to speak, and it is also used in many countries at the same scale. What a challenge. Different languages, different cultures, the same assessment, one same scale, which is compared and compares. Brazil has adopted PISA for the third consecutive year. In 2017, we had a small sample sponsored by Lemon Foundation. Back then, students used pencil and paper, and we obtained interesting results that were shared publicly. In 2019, 229 schools, public and private schools, had their first PISA assessment for schools in computers. Only digital, fully digital. It's interesting to note that PISA is designed for schools. It assesses schools. However, networks that support and sponsor PISA would like to obtain collective results of schools. That is, maybe a report that could be generated bringing together all the schools in a network, in a given network. And this was something that was put forward by the OECD, the OECD rather, because before that, each school conducted their own assessments individually. So now we can look at the results of the networks that took the PISA 2019. And it's important to mention now that in 2021, we will have a new cycle, a new PISA cycle in November. Late October, early November 2021 to assess the same schools. Therefore, this will represent an opportunity to assess the impacts of COVID in our schools through PISA, using the PISA scales, with assessing the same groups, the same schools. Now in the second round of PISA in Brazil. And today we have invited the key participants of PISA in 2019 to the panel. And I'd like to begin by introducing Laura Lagana, the director. Can you see Laura on the screen? Followed by Elsa Gresh from Bradesco Foundation, and then Patricia Monteiro, representing the Secretariat of Education in São Paulo, and Mike, our representative of the OECD, who is joining us today. And immediately after their presentations, we will have the Q&A session. I hope you make the most of the session. We've shared rich experiences. This has been a very enriching experience for our country to assess all of these schools, over 12,000 students, and the results of which were compared at an international scale, the PISA scale. So I hope you enjoy this session, and I wish us all a fruitful and instructive afternoon. Thank you very much. Over to you, Laura, from Fundação Paula Souza. Paula Souza Foundation is a technical school. It is a top school in Brazil. Good afternoon to all. I'm very happy to be here today. I would like to begin by thanking Professor Maria Helena Bav, the Brazilian Association for Educational Assessment, for the opportunity to share the results of Paula Souza school with the PISA scores. It is without a doubt the most important assessment in the world today. And thank you, Nilma. I'd like to thank you and congratulate you and the foundation for conducting PISA with excellence. We are fond of the reports that you share with the schools. The reports are very consistent. and it is a very important instrument for schools to follow their performance and to work on continued improvement of their performance. So I commend you once again for conducting the PISA assessment twice in Brazil optimally. And I'm going to talk about our center, Paula Souza, and our results. So let me share my screen with you. So can you all view my slide? Fine. So our center, called Paula Souza, is an autarky. It is responsible for the public professional education of the state of São Paulo. Unlike other states, it is linked to the Secretariat of Economic, Science, and Technology Development. In most states, professional education is tied to the Secretariat of Education, which is not the case in the state of São Paulo. And we are the largest state network of public professional schooling or education in Latin America, providing all levels of professional education. So we have high school, technical, and also graduate courses or undergraduate courses. We also have continued education courses. Throughout the pandemic, we have been training a large population of unemployed individuals. We have 223 technical schools, 74 technology schools, and over 537 plus 537 decentralized classrooms. These are school extensions that have become very popular lately. From these 537 uncentralized lessons, well, we have partnerships with the Secretariat of Education, and part of them to bring professional education to students, to high school students. This is called Nicotech, this program, and it aims to, of course, broaden high school education and technical education in the state of São Paulo. So we serve 228,000 students and provide 128 different courses. This is the profile of our students, the socio-economic profile of our students in 2019 when PISA was applied in Brazil. According to the survey, 78% of students in technical schools are from the public system, the public education system, and 32% are Afro-descendants, claim to be Afro-descendants. Since the system changed throughout the pandemic, and now we actually assess their reports, their school reports for the entrance, for admittance, this has changed, and 78% of our students come from public schools. As for the family income, 60% have make up to 3 minimum salaries. Of course, this family income applies to the institution by large. Students, high school students, and high school plus technical students that took PISA, these students study night shifts. They do not work, they're not in the professional market, and in this sample, the family income is higher, over 70%. And this is what we have in Paula Souza Center. In the night shift, of course, many of the students work and are from the lower social brackets, 57% up to 17 years of age and 55% between 18 and 23 years of age. As for the employment levels, Center Paula Souza conducts research annually, surveys to look at the employability levels of our students. In 2019, that we reached 72% in this index, and it's interesting because in our next surveys, we will be able to detect the impact of the pandemic in terms of employment. Looking at the general data, PISA overall data, we were actually involved in the two PISA assessments. The first one in 2017, sponsored by Lemon Foundation, when we used CERESP to select 4 different schools. The results were very interesting, and we were very excited and willing to enlarge the sample. Then in 2019, we had 30 schools taking PISA. How were they selected? We also used CERESP to look at the schools throughout the state of São Paulo. I think only one was not considered eligible, and they have high school courses integrated to technical courses. And they also appointed the 4 schools that took PISA for schools back in 2017. We also included 2 ag schools from the 34 ag schools that are part of Center Paula Souza. The key results are the following. We observed that in average, ZTech in reading, mathematics, and science, well, the average was higher than the results in Brazil and the results of the OECD. Therefore, in this case, well, these are actually very good results, and they were results that stemmed from the hard work of our teachers. We also compared, or actually the reports indicated the following. When we compared the results of students of Center Paula Souza with results from other countries, in reading, Center Paula Souza did better than all of the other schools, from Japan and Korea included. In mathematics, we also attained very good results. We did not do better than Japan and Korea only. And these results bring the performance of Center Paula Souza close to those of the United Kingdom. So the United Kingdom had the closest performance to Center Paula Souza. In science, our schools only lagged behind Japan and Korea. So as mentioned, these are very exciting results, and we are therefore working hard to keep these results going forward, always comparing the scores to PISA and working hard to continue improving. And now we're going to talk about a very interesting point, the correlation between the socioeconomic and cultural status of our schools with performance. Center Paula Souza has averages, the ESCSs, the social, economic, and cultural status. In average, our scores are lower, of course, than the OECD countries. However, it is far higher than the average of PISA Brazil from 2018. Therefore, we can say Center Paula Souza, well, considering even though it is a public system, it has attained these results because of the admission system into our schools, a selective process that has been adopted, which has an impact in the socioeconomic index.
Well, based on these results, we carried out an exercise here. So we chose 3 different schools, like Novo Horizonte, which has that socioeconomic and cultural level, which is below average. ETEC Jardim Angela, which is a school that is in a very vulnerable neighborhood. It is the fourth It has the fourth lowest human development index. And the third one is ETEC Novo Horizonte. We compared this with the PISA Brazil and PISA for private schools. The results are quite similar or higher when compared to all. So, for example, we chose a sample of schools that are in more needy regions, and the result was quite good. That shows that the work that was carried out, the educational work that was carried out, is essential, and it should even be more intense than it is in schools that are in areas that are highly vulnerable. ETEC Jardim Angela is one of the schools, and Novo Horizonte as well. It's one of the four schools that is participating in 2017. And so this assessment is very, very important.
Porque as habilidades
13.
socioemocionais são muito valorizadas pelo
Okay,
mercado
the social and emotional skills are very, very important. And these are some things that we have to work more in our schools. Optimism has a high correlation. The other skills like self-control, empathy, curiosity, and optimism,
como o otimismo. E a questão assertividade,
self-control and optimism. And then we have, for example, assertiveness, which we noticed is something that we have to pay attention to. We definitely have to work on new methodologies so that our students can express their feelings and express their feelings with a lot of self-confidence and also their position and opinion. We work on these social and emotional skills, but in the last grades where the students develop projects and they have their end of the year project. So that's when they do some collaborative work, do projects. So these skills are more worked on. But without a doubt, we do notice that this is very delicate, especially because it's very valued by the job market. Okay, so what did PISA for schools reveal about these schools? So in both of the editions, we've seen good results. First of all, we have the entry to the system that takes place through a selection process, and that's positive because the child chooses a school, tries really hard to get into the school, and then he values that opportunity. We also focus on learning based on projects and the development of social and emotional skills. And all of this is very important because in reality, these skills actually let the student develop critical thinking skills and other skills. It actually stimulates the student to think on his or her own, define their life project and career project, and that also helps us have a school that is more connected. The third item is constant training of teachers, managers, we have two evaluation or assessment systems, and we also assess those systems. We have internal and external indicators, and it's also worth mentioning that Paulo Souza had well, it grew a lot these years. It's been growing for more than 10 years now. And in order for the performance and growth to be harmonious and seamless, we actually have to implement assessment systems and follow up all the indicators from up close. Professional education was also always a priority for the government of São Paulo. São Paulo has more than 30% of the companies in the country, and of course, this demands that we offer qualified or skilled workers so that they can enter the job market. And this is very important as well for our young people. And in the last aspect, I would like to say that we had a large growth in our education, in our integrated education system, which is more than 90% of the enrollment in high school. We've worked with more than 20 million students. We've done the reform of our high school here and in the schools of the Secretary of Education. That partnership is very interesting because the training is done by the teachers of the network and the professional part is done by the people from Paulo Souza. We believe that this expansion has really improved the system and our school's performance. And these results can be verified by quality indicators. So among the 100 best public Brazilian schools considering the different municipal, state, and federal networks, 50 are edtechs. That's an excellent result if we take into consideration the amount of schools that we have in Brazil. This ranking shows the quality of our teaching. And then in the ENEM, which is the high school exam, so among the best 100 state public schools in Brazil, 64 are edtechs, and that also says a lot. And to finish, I would just like to talk a little bit about the pandemic. The pandemic obviously brought up some interesting challenges, and Paulo Souza was always able to migrate to remote classes quite seamlessly. That was implemented very successfully at the Paulo Souza Center, and I believe that that action was successful and it actually minimized our losses. But we'll only be sure of that when we participate in the third edition of the PISA, where the same 30 edtechs will be assessed, the ones that participated in 2019, also distributed in São Paulo and the rural areas and the capital. And we're very excited because we believe this will be the first assessment that will be able to detect what the impacts of the pandemic were on our students and what impacts did the pandemic have on skills and skill development, especially social and emotional skills. So, therefore, I believe that the growth and expansion of integrated education will give us new results. It will shed new results for Brazilian education, and that has shown that the reform in high school was a good idea. And therefore, now we have new opportunities appearing for our schools. That way, our schools can have a better performance and we can reach a new educational scenario in Brazil. Thank you so much for allowing me to participate today, and I am here for anything you may need.
Eu estou com som? Então, repetindo, parabéns, Laura, uma beleza de apresentação.
Congratulations, Laura. What a wonderful presentation. We are very satisfied with the results of the Paulo Souza Center. I think it's interesting what you're saying. Let's see what happened since you had the opportunity to work with this hybrid educational model. I think that this is a very important opportunity in our country, and I would like to congratulate Laura and the Paulo Souza Center because they're one of it's something that definitely makes us proud to have in our country. Okay, now we have Elsa from the Bradesco Foundation, another institution that has a very important journey. It helps a lot of students and schools with different social and economic conditions. Okay, so the floor is yours, Elsa. Hello, Nilma. Thank you so much. Once again, I'd like to thank Abavi for inviting me to be a part of this roundtable. I think it is such an important roundtable. Just like you said, it is key for us to talk about this. This is such an important topic for the country in this moment. I mean, due to this context of the pandemic and schools and education. And I'd like to thank you, Nilma. You have been my friend for such a long time, and it's truly an honor to be a part of this roundtable with you and with the other participants, with Laura. We've also been together in an international seminar talking about the results. Mike and Patricia. It is an honor to be able to talk a little bit about our institution with all of you. PISA really made a difference for us here. Nilma, I tend to say that there is a Bradesco Foundation before PISA and after PISA. I think that PISA brought this movement to our schools, to our network, that is absolutely fantastic. It's nice to see how much it moved the teams, our educational team here at the foundation. So I would also like to start sharing my screen. Just to show you a little bit about the Bradesco Foundation.
Bom, primeiro, a gente precisa falar da nossa experiência, né? O que foi a experiência?
So we have to talk about our experience. What was our experience as Bradesco Foundation? For those of you who don't know it, I'm going to talk a little bit about who we are. We are a private institution, philanthropic institution, and in November, we have our 65th anniversary. We are present all over Brazil, and our founder, Mr. Aguiar, he left us this legacy, which is to offer an education, a quality education to all those who need it, so that we can operate through education and transform lives. And that is what moves us ever since we began 65 years ago. So what we do is we work with children as of 5 years of age, so preschool, middle school, high school, technical courses in some schools, schools for young adults and adults. We have 40 different schools spread out all over Brazil. And like I say, we have a project that is the size of Brazil, and in a country with this diversity, such a cultural diversity that we have here in Brazil.
We have to work with this network of schools, and that is quite a challenge. But everyone really does their best to provide quality education to all. Of course, that students in our school, well, we do have an admission process. It is not paid. It is 100% free. They don't pay tuition. There are no costs for the families. The school is a top school in the communities where we operate, and there's no such thing as an admissions exam or test. What we assess, well, we look at the socioeconomic condition of the family. So we look at income levels and address, distance from the school. And once we receive students, we actually believe that regardless of the student's condition, all students are capable of learning, and we actually invest we focus all we do financially and in all that we teach to students to pursue this aim. In 2020, we actually had over 46,000 students from young children to adults. We have a virtual school. We provide distance learning and remote courses. In 2020, we had over 3 million or 22 million students. And because of the pandemic, we had more students reaching out for remote courses. We have over 3,000 employees, and half of which are teachers. So this is our network of schools. And we are constantly seeking to provide quality education to our students. In 2017, we were involved in Lema's pilot project with 2 other schools with satisfactory results. And we were eager to learn more about the other schools, how they were doing, because when you have a network of schools, you want to, of course, strive. Well, I do not mean to say, that we'll have even results, because there are many different cultures in Brazil, but maybe we could have more similar results, so to speak. Considering we provide similar conditions, we should obtain similar results as much as possible. In 2019, our 36 schools participated, schools of middle and school and high school. 26,000 students participated, from which 1,214 were male, 1,073 female girls. And here is a point that is important that I would like to bring to you so you understand the impact it had. We looked at the results of students that never failed and that failed. Once again, going back to the discussion we've always had, failing does not translate into better performance. And PISA also indicated that in 2017 and once again in 2019. Therefore, from those participants, 286 failed once at least. So we had students that participated that were in 8th grade, 9th grade, and high school. And because they had failed. So when you look at the results, we can clearly, well, of course, we try to understand what PISA is revealing. What PISA is showing us In some cases, it showed things that we expected, that were not new to us, because if we have students that come from lower income brackets, and when Laura also mentions the percentage or the level of her students at her center, I should say that almost 99% of our students come from families with 1.5 minimum salary. This is the per capita income of the students that we have, indicating therefore that the socioeconomic and cultural index in our case have, well, much lower levels from the private education system in Brazil and the OECD country. Even though we are a private school, a private network, the population that we serve does not have the profile of the private sector, the private schools. The socioeconomic levels of our students is low, and it's not new to us. We don't need to participate in PISA to learn that, but it was important for us to look and compare and match this performance, these results, with the results of students, other students in other countries and in private schools and other public schools. And another thing we learned, and this is something we have also proven through other assessments that we conduct, is the variability among in the learning process among students and schools. So there were schools that had a good performance, even though the social levels, the income levels were very, very similar. Regardless of the geographical region, north, south, the socioeconomic profile of students was very similar. However, there is a variation in learning. The performance varies among schools. And this indicates that we have to take action in one way or another in this aspect. And this is why I say you have foundation, Bradesco Foundation, before and after PISA, because we were driven by these results. Of course, we were looking at these aspects, but of course, it actually highlighted that we needed to really take action to improve results, do more to improve results. And I wanted to share previous data with you because the difference in the average grades of students that had failed and had not failed is of around 100 points. That's the difference, which shows once again that, and these are elements we can use to work with students, that having students fail does not translate into better performance in future. What we need to do is, well, we need to do all we can to prevent failure. And this actually came to show that, yes, we do need to work and to strengthen schools. And when PISA looks at social emotional skills, well, this was a need we already had. Since 2017, we put together a curriculum looking at the skills, the social, emotional skills. So we actually designed a curriculum looking at first grade and middle school up to high school, and working to develop social economic skills. So we had great interest to learn if we had already attained results in those areas. And as we could see, yes, we are on the right track on making improvements. What else did we find through PISA? Our average is above the average of Brazil public schools and PISA 2018, but we're a private school, and therefore we are not happy with these results, and we know we have to improve. In reading, the average in Bradesco Foundation was higher than those of Brazil, Colombia, Mexico students, and it was the same as the average of students in Chile. In mathematics, we also had a better performance than countries in Latin America, considering that in mathematics, we had 21 points difference when compared to Chile, which is the strongest country in Latin America, with better results in science. We also had a higher performance than other countries in Latin America, and what drew our attention was that in percentile 75, the average is pretty much the same as those of European countries. Therefore, this clearly indicates that we are still far from European and Asian performance. Although, yes, in terms of schools, we're close. However, this is not what we want. And what are the challenges that were presented by PISA? First, we need to make sure we have a lower variability in performance and more equity among students. And this is a key challenge that, we learned through PISA by participating in PISA, and we have been working tirelessly ever since we received the reports to implement actions that will address these challenges. Of course, we want to help students do better, those that failed or didn't make this course, because we firmly believe that all students are capable of doing well. And the other challenge is now we want to investigate, the pedagogical practices of our schools, the schools that perform well. We want to find what they're doing to overcome social and cultural disadvantages of students, considering our profile nationwide is not so different, does not differ much. And we found that, yes, we do need to work hard to attain a higher proficiency level that is closer to the results of the public education system and the OECD countries. Therefore, ever since we received the result, we set these challenges to ourselves, and at the same time, when it comes to education, time goes by faster than in any other areas because we cannot afford to wait. And in our case, we can't. We really cannot afford to wait. Therefore, we began to work immediately after we received the results of the assessments of the tests. We began to work amidst the pandemic, and we were able to maintain remote schooling in our 40 schools with a good attendance levels, providing students with all the necessary resources they needed to learn what they had to learn. And now, of course, going forward, we will have to look at the impact of our actions, right, Nilma? We will have to measure the results, how much we've progressed or not. Therefore, we created goals for improvement, for school improvement, and we defined our goals for, pedagogical management with the principals, with the leaders and their teams. We all read the reports and worked hard to find, if the goals really were set looking at the track record of schools. We don't want to set, of course, extremely bold goals, knowing that schools will not be able to attain them in the short run. We also mapped all of the skills that were related to the levels that were assessed in PISA, and we also looked at the curriculum to compare what was designed in the curriculum and how if it matched our materials and our lessons. We have to go beyond 15-year-olds. We need to start earlier at preschool or primary school and to look at what we can do to do better, to improve. So when they turn 15, they will have the expected skills at the expected level.
So we reviewed the curriculum and the educational material that was adopted and methodologies. We have our own material for elementary school, and in 6 months, we came up with this review of all this material. It was really a lot of work, and in January 2021, we added new material. We even carried out research with our students, teachers, just to know what they think about the material. So we are constantly paying attention to see what we can do to improve. We also have a recovery program for students. This is a specific program. Even if we were online, we thought that this was important, so we're working a lot with gamification. There are several platforms. We had those students mapped out that needed to develop some basic skills. We added some programs, even if it was online. So that's how we worked, and we continue to work. We also trained teachers so that they could use new educational strategies to cooperate with teachers' learning. And using this technological moment, we created we came up with a community of teachers, guidance counselors, in order to be able to discuss this was all to improve the learning experience. And in 2021, we did all of this, even though we were running the risk. We put up the new high school plan, which focuses on students' autonomy. We have a new high school. But what I can definitely say is that PISA actually caused a revolution. That is what I can say. PISA caused a revolution in schools, in teachers, in our technical teams here, everywhere. It was very good. Thank you so much for your attention, and I'm here if you have any questions or comments. Thank you.
Do PISA, né?
Thank you so much. What an interesting talk about the measures that you took to overcome these difficult moments. I'm sure that in the next cycle, we will see that difference. I have no doubt about it, because we learned that focusing and on education is what we have to have. Congratulations to the Bradesco Foundation. We've been working with this foundation for several years now, and it's very good to see how Elsa transformed the results into educational initiatives. So thank you very much. I really like your work. Okay, and now, Patricia, up to you. São Paulo was assessed. We're going to assess this year another set of about 45 new schools. It's a very important network, and Patricia will show us what São Paulo has to say to us about this topic. The floor is yours, Patricia. Thank you so much, Nilma. Thank you, everyone. It is definitely an honor to be able to participate in this roundtable. Thank you for all the work that we've done together, and this is another project that we carried out together. And now I'm going to present a little bit about what PISA was and how it's impacted our network. Thank you so much. Okay, well, I just want to talk a little bit about the context. So here we can see São Paulo today has the largest educational network in Brazil and in the Americas. Here are some important figures. We have 3.4 million students, 250,000 staff members, and 190 teachers. It's quite a large number, as you can see. We have 5,000 schools and 91 educational directors. Any assessment gives us a lot of information so that we can make decisions, and PISA did precisely that. It had very good results, and it gave us a different perspective of the assessments that we already worked with. Here's what we have for São Paulo today. So here you can see the recovery and program. We have the curriculum, we have the assessment, we have the follow-up, and we have educational resources, training, and technology. And I'm in charge of the assessment, this little area on the left. And this takes a look at assessment, right? Different types of assessments. And what is the goal of our partnership with PISA, or including PISA in schools? Okay, so here you can see this link. It's available so that you can see more information. So within our strategic vision, one of our challenges that was, I would say, the most important was to achieve what we wanted for the future by 2030. So what we want is to put São Paulo we wanted to be amongst the most advanced educational systems in the world. So with that in mind, we saw that with PISA, we could measure the capacity of students to apply knowledge in a creative manner, help schools in São Paulo to assess key components for development of skills required for the 21st century. Since 2019, São Paulo proposed to take a look at social and emotional skills, and PISA has that point of view as well. So some skills that are required for the 21st century are important, and we noticed that. We also have another goal of creating and encouraging learning opportunities amongst colleagues. And when we see the PISA results and when we look at these schools, what can we observe from that? And what can we see now that we're going back to school? Our team here is already working to be able to include that personalized report experience into schools. That way schools can unite and learn from each other. That is our biggest challenge, I would say. So I'm going to show two schools here. And I just want to corroborate what Elsa said. I mean, this is a very rich report. It's full of educational tips and emotional tips for these students. And another goal is to contribute with educational policies based on international quality benchmarks. So there we can position our school in an international context. And I think that if schools can compare themselves with international schools, I think that's amazing. And that was a big surprise for the school. So here we can see the context. São Paulo was one of the first Brazilian states to implement the PISA-based system for schools. It was a partnership that we did. It was a great partnership. And in 2019, we hired 300 schools, and which is what we call applications or memberships. So in the first moment, we applied 127, and then we have 173 schools to apply in 2021. Within the pandemic, and Nilma and the Secretary of Education, what did we decide? Well, that we would apply it again in these 173 schools so that we could actually compare the results of these schools, of the 127 schools, compared to themselves and to the international context. That way, we can understand how the school is performing, and maybe Nilma can say more about this afterwards. How much this progress can show how much we can progress in our educational measures. And now I would like to show you some results that came in the report. I don't know if you've seen these before. We have our school A, as you can see up here. And this was extremely interesting because it's a personalized result. So school A, when it analyzes reading, the school felt very honored that it was able to be a part of this. So as you can see, there's 432 as is what it got in terms of points, and it knows how much it needs in order to be able to have better performance. Maybe it doesn't know how to do this, and that's our role. That's where we come in. And then we saw that this school, for example, in this school, the boys are, let's say, are better than the girls by 51 points. And that really called our attention. So this school has some practice that differs from other schools. And this made us think of a project to group schools with different results. So these schools where boys and girls have the same score, maybe we should look at that school and see what they did. Maybe that makes sense, because if they have a different type of practice, we should take a look at it. And here we have something that says that favorite students overcome the performance of less favorite students by 116 points. And then we have school B. So 420 points. I'm just going to compare reading, okay, so that it's a little bit clearer and simpler. So you can see that it's superior to Brazilian level, and you can see here that boys and girls have similar performance. So it's important to take a look at that. If something makes the girls in the other school have a lower performance, we have to analyze that. We have to assess that. I mean, if we take a look at the report, it just makes sense. And then here, more and less favored children have similar performance. That's very interesting, and it's different from school A. So this type of report and the details of this report is what gives us an idea of how we can start to have this debate with schools. And here, this is just a print screen of the report. This is how the school receives it. And here we have engagement and feeling of the student. In school A, what happens? 84% of students believe that what they learn in science is important for their future. And here I'm going to focus on this one point, right? So remember 84. When I go to the second school, school B, 68% think that this is important. So what does the first school do differently from the second school? Why do they have different ideas about this?
This is something we'll start working on now, and I hope I have the opportunity to share it with you later on. Here's another chart model. You see the school as being unique. Looking at Brazil, it's unique. Looking at the OECD countries, and this is really important for us. Here's another school, B, comparing, well, looking at how this report focuses on school. And this was really important to have schools stop and read the reports. And now, considering the second stage in the pandemic, looking at the recovery and taking a deeper dive, we made a study, a sample on the impact on the pandemic. The results were quite surprising. And now we're looking at 127 schools that are going to replicate PISA for schools. Well, they will produce a lot of data that will actually conduct our decisions going forward, looking at how students were impacted during the pandemic. So here you have a regression in learning, right? From CAED in the Juiz de Fora University, the evasion, the dropout levels, and mental health issues. Datafolha here in Brazil, the survey agency also states that 75% of students in the public system feel anxious, sad, annoyed, and as a result of the isolation and confinement and school closing. And we're going to look at the impacts. And now, this set of schools will participate. We have 127 schools and 46 new schools with, of course, the personalized reports and the others comparative reports. So it will begin on October 25th and it will last for 1 week. Thank you very much for the opportunity to be here, and I'll be glad to take your questions. I'm very happy to be here in this panel. Nilma's microphone is closed. 127 schools, 127 schools, and now we're going to do it again. And this will be an important activity. We'll look at the impact on the activities that were carried out. And yes, it is a unique opportunity, an unprecedented opportunity. And in closing, since we're pressed for time, because yes, they did have a lot of content to present. Mike is our friend. He works for PISA for Schools and has much experience, is familiar with Brazil, and he speaks Portuguese. Thank you. Thank you very much. How many languages do you speak? Well, you're a natural. You learn so many languages so easily. Okay, no problem. I'll speak in Portuguese. Good afternoon to all. I am honored to be here today with all of you. The three panelists have broad experience with education in Brazil and a lot of knowledge and they have a lot of experience with PISA for school. So you have said it all, I would say. There isn't much left for me to say because you were so clear in your in-depth presentations. I'd like to thank Nilma and to congratulate you and thank the organizers for inviting me to join you in this panel. As Nilma said, my name is Mike Ochisu. I work for the OECD in the coordination of implementation of PISA for schools in different countries. I'm also responsible for the development of the global network for teachers and PISA for schools. And 2 years ago, I joined you when we presented PISA for schools. In 2019, our project consists of a transformation process going from paper to digital and looking at mathematics, science, and reading at first. Now with social emotional aspects, and there's another project about the impact of COVID. And we also have a community of international professors. So our project was delayed. There was a pushback over the past 2 years. Well, I do believe my Portuguese has improved, however. Yuma well, we have heard a very clear explanation. PISA is an international test. It focuses on reading, mathematics, science, but it's important to mention that we do not we don't focus on knowledge reproduction, but rather knowledge application on everyday life. And we focus on knowledge to handle challenges, everyday challenges. We're global. We're present in over 80 countries back in 2018. It's important to mention that we have questionnaires for students, families, teachers, leaders. We want to gather more data to produce a more thorough analysis. And I would like to point out that Brazil first participated in PISA in the year 2000. So it has been 20 years, 21 years now. And there are also joint actions with other countries, which indicates that we have a long-standing cooperation with the PISA tests and teachers in many different countries. So PISA has, I don't mean to repeat all that has been clearly explained by our three speakers. I just wish to highlight 3 points. We have the PISA results that can be controlled in the process. When we went digital, we conducted an international study on attachment to look at this relation, how PISA is tied to school performance. You have researchers, and this is the research that was conducted last year. You have the link on the screen. Secondly, we have our vision and mission. PISA is global. Global Being global is important. We want to share excellence at a national and international level. Therefore, we've created a global network for every participant for PISA for schools to get involved. Our test does not only measure learning results, but also the well-being, welfare of students. These will be important schools for their future. We use questionnaires in this context, so students can share more information that goes beyond cognitive skills. Very briefly, we have more data on PISA S for 15-year-olds and the duration of the test, reading, mathematics, science, and 30 minutes with a questionnaire for students on socio-economic factors, well-being, social emotional skills. This is a global project. We're present in over 15 countries in many regions with digital application. And as Patricia has indicated, she has talked about our report in detail. So each school can produce a report containing information, well, comparative information, looking for instance at Brazil and the average of the OECD. And you also have information on motivation of students, relationship between students and teachers, the expectation of students as to their professional lives. And we also have other products because assessment to us is just the beginning of a process of the improvement adventure. It's more important for us to look at what comes next after the assessment. And we have created different products to support teachers to help them understand the results, interpret the results of the school. We have a reading day and tutorials. These two products are available in Portuguese, and they have clear explanations on the concepts and strategies that are used in the report, and so on. And we can also produce group reports and databases for schools. So PISA for schools in Brazil and the world, as I've mentioned before, well, we have heard our panelists explain very clearly. We had a pilot back in 2017 with the technical support from Lehman and CES Gran Rio. And we had the 2019 edition with our service national provider in PISA Brazil, CES Gran Rio Foundation, with over 200 schools participated in 2019. 2020, of course, unfortunately, we couldn't repeat it because of the pandemic. And next month, we will have over 400 schools participating in Brazil. And there's one thing I would also like to mention again, as Patricia said, the follow-up is very important. So maybe we didn't have tests in 2020, but there were many events, workshops, meetings with Brazilian teachers, professionals, over 1,000 Brazilian teachers attending events and organizing events. Our project is constantly evolving. We want to, of course, offer the most relevant tests for teachers. In 2019, we had a new module for social emotional skills, competencies. In 2021, now we have created the global crisis module to measure the impact of COVID-19. And of course, globally, yes, we are present in over 15 countries, from Brazil to Australia, Japan, the US.
And now I would like to talk about our different models in more detail. We have different models in different countries. I chose 4 different approaches that may be interesting for you. Well, first of all, for the last 7 years, we've been working with the public school at Gwinnett County. It is the largest public school in Georgia in the United States. It has more than 179,000 students, 139 schools in total. You know that there is an age limit, right? And what they did during these 7 years was the following. These schools participate and each one has their own report. And then all that information is centralized in the Gwinnett County server and they make their own report. And then all that information is sent to all the region. It's not only sent to the public schools that participated, but also schools in other levels, which is junior high and high school. Why do they do this? Well, because in high school, the students that go to high school, most of them, they approve, they pass. In junior high school, it's very important to put all the schools to work together in case a high school can't do everything on its own. So that's what they do. They put everyone together, and then each year they have a global workshop for each educator in the district. It's a 2-day workshop. And it's competency-based testing to see how they can create PISA items and validate skills. And not only just reproduce knowledge. Okay, well now let's talk about Portugal. Portugal's approach is very different. They don't only work by districts, they work in communities, so intermunicipal communities. So we work with 8 intermunicipal communities, approximately 105 schools, and it's also quite similar. All the information is put in one place and it's distributed to the different schools in the district. But not only that, because they also have a network. It's kind of like a network to network approach. Then thirdly, this is our largest population, the Russian Federation. It's a 5-year project, and each year we add 15 different regions, and we evaluate every year more than 1,500 schools. I spoke a lot about network, but we also work with a thematic approach, let's say. That is the case of Thailand, where we work with a government organization that has programs, and they're very interested in knowing what performance they're having. In 2021, we included 66 schools from the country. Like I mentioned, each school has people that have scholarships and people that don't have scholarships. So like I said, each school has their own reports, and then there's a report created by the OECD with these 66 schools. We also carried out a workshop with them to explain what the results were, and we also offered training to the teachers in Thailand, and we didn't stop there. We also offered a very technical workshop about item response theory and how to assess all of this. And after giving you these examples, I'd like to mention two important things. First of all, our project is very flexible. We can work closely with you because we know that your context is very specific, and we can work together on that specific context, and we can also provide personalized reports like we did for Thailand. And we carry out different types of analyses, and we can also organize training workshops. And this is if they want to learn more about the item response theory. And quickly, because I know my time is almost up, what do we do later after the assessment? Well, we have a community of PISA for schools. It's an online forum that is open for each teacher in each school that is participating in the program. We have a lot of material there on education, PISA, etc. And it's all available for you. This is our PISA for Schools community. You can ask questions in your own language. For example, here we have a Portuguese teacher who's asking a question in Portuguese. And we also have case studies from different countries. Like, for example, you can see this one here, which is from Spain. And we also have videos of these case studies. Like I mentioned before in my presentation, we also have a lot of webinars that we carry out with the teachers. And this is the workshop that I mentioned with teachers from Thailand. It's carried out in August and it lasts a month. And then quickly, I'd like to mention all of the lessons that we've learned after interacting with students for a couple of years in so many countries, Portugal, Spain, and other countries. We have learned a lot of things, to be honest. First of all, it's very important to have a leader at the school. It's important for the leader to know how important it is to use data in the schools. And then we also learned how essential the role of teachers is, both in their involvement with the project as well as in the impact on their professional development. So here teachers have an opportunity to train themselves. And then thirdly, it's important to understand that the assessment concept to some teachers, it's still something quite new, let's say. So we have the possibility have to find schools that are open to exploring the intersection between an assessment based on competencies and education based on curriculum. So just to finish, I would like to invite all of you to participate in our community. And for the future, we are right now developing a new item. We have 4 international specialists, and we created 95 new items. And our plan is to have these items piloted in other countries. Okay, well, just to finish, PISA School is a very dynamic project because we can work with everyone in the world in an individual manner. PISA School is also a global project. It's a technical project. That's why we have very technical workshops for the technical team. We think that this project is very innovative, and we always add new modules, new services to be able to cover the needs of teachers. And we're also a collaborative project. We're always available for you to work with you, and I want to learn from you. Thank you so much for your patience and attention. Thank you.
Você fez uma apresentação, inclusive.
It was amazing. You spoke about the future, about new things. And we can really benefit from that here. Okay, I think we have 5 minutes to finish. Is that it? How much time do we have left? Okay, 4 minutes. Do we have any questions? It was a long session, very interesting session. All our presenters had a lot to say, so much to say. So we're still receiving questions. So we have 4 minutes to receive questions, answer them. Where is Mayara? Maybe she can help us out with the questions.
Manda alguma pergunta para nós. Vai lá, Mayara.
Can you send us any questions? There are no questions.
Eu não estou recebendo a pergunta.
I'm sorry. I could not understand you. I think your sound cut it off. It cut off.
Informada aqui pela Milene que não
Milene has informed that there are no questions. We don't have questions. Wow. Okay. Well, we had extremely good presentations, and they were so good that no one has any questions. They were so clear to everyone. What can I say? If you haven't participated in the PISA-based system, participate. If you're a teacher, take PISA to your school. PISA is worth it. PISA's report is, I mean, all I can say is that it is incredible. The interpretation of performance, the comparison of this performance with other countries and the OECD average, so that you can understand where your school is within this educational benchmark, is very interesting. And this is a scale that is very, very worth it. So we're here for anything you may need. You are, for now, the only providers, right? The only institutions that provide PISA until the end of this year. And you will continue with the results until June of next year. Maybe next year we can talk to see if we will continue with this exclusivity or not. But we did have exclusivity for 2 years, and it was so good to work with the schools It was so good to work with the OECD, and it's so good to work with Mike. He's our Brazilian friend that we have at the OECD. And I believe that the institutions that worked with us, which were several, the next group will be of almost 700 schools. 700 schools. Maybe we'll do the application in two different moments. First 400 schools and then with the rest of the schools. The pandemic and this return to school is not easy. It is not easy to go back to the activities. Thank you so much to the OECD. Thank you so much for giving us this exclusivity for 2 years and more, even. I think that we were definitely what we needed to be. You had the opportunity to see the excellent results and the excellent presentation. Thank you so much to the Bradesco Foundation, to the Paulo Souza Center, the Secretariat of Education in Sao Paulo, and I would love to send a huge hug to my friend Rosieli. Congratulations to him because he is really transforming education in Sao Paulo. And well, I hope that to count on all of you in the next roundtable. We will have a roundtable at Abavi to see what changed from one year to the other and how the pandemic impacted. You're all hired for that roundtable. Thank you so much. Have a great evening and thank you for being here with us during this hour and a half. Thank you. Thank you.